All right, so I've been using my M5 iPad Pro for about a month now, and it's absolutely incredible. But I'm thinking I should have got the 13-inch. And I debated on screen size for a while. I used to have the 13-inch model for the past 18 months. I used the M4 iPad Pro. And the 13-inch model was just super annoying for some tasks. So that 13-inch model wasn't good for holding the iPad in hand, which if you're using your iPad as an iPad, you're going to be holding it in hand quite a bit. Hey everyone, TechDad here, and in this upgrade cycle, I wanted to see if the 11-inch model would be a better fit for my use case. The problem is I use my iPad for absolutely everything. So it is my tablet, it is my laptop computer, I use it in all of my jobs. So I use it in project management from 9 to 5, and then I teach in the evenings with this guy, so it's my teaching whiteboard. It's my video editor for this YouTube channel, and it's my fun tablet, so I use it for all my content consumption, watching shows, playing video games, reading books, all those sorts of tablet things. So this guy has a tall order to live up to for me. And so I've been using this one about a month now, and it is definitely feeling cramped for some tasks. So it feels really good when doing some things, but not so good when doing others. So in this video, we got to make a comparison list. We got to see the positives of the 11-inch versus the positives of the 13-inch and just see which has more positives. And of course, we're going to use Apple Notes and Apple Pencil Pro to make our list. Duh! So without further ado, let's get into this list and see which is the winner for me. And also, if you're deciding on which screen size you should get, I hope this list helps you out. So let's see what we come up with. All right, so first, let's talk about the positives of the 11-inch model. So the first thing right out of the gate that I want to point out is this model is cheaper. A lot cheaper, actually. Like $300 cheaper. That's a big deal. That's a whole A16 iPad, basically. So if budget is a concern and you want to get the M5 model, the 11-inch saves you a lot of money right out of the gate. And what's weird is for that cheaper price, you're not getting worse hardware. So you're getting the same M5 chip with the same cores, getting the same amount of RAM as the 13-inch, getting the same display, except that it's smaller, and you're getting the same battery life. So hardware-wise, there really isn't a difference at all between the 11-inch and the 13-inch. It's just the screen size. You're literally paying $300 more for that extra 2 inches of screen. All right, the second positive about this iPad is that it is lighter. Of course, it's smaller, so it's going to be lighter, and it's about 1/3 of a pound lighter, so not insignificant. And that's been a big deal when I sit and hold my iPad, especially when I'm editing videos. So I edit all my video on my iPad, and I might be holding this thing for a couple of hours on the couch. And so that 1/3 of a pound adds up over 2 hours. And so it's just more comfortable on my wrists to just hold this thing for a longer period of time because it's not so heavy. That's a really big deal for me, and one main reason why I tried that 11-inch, because that 13-inch was just a lot of weight to hold for a long time. All right, the next big positive is portrait mode with this iPad. So this iPad actually has a different aspect ratio than the 13-inch iPad. So it's actually thinner on these sides when you hold it in portrait mode. It's more in the shape of a book than that 13-inch iPad. And I really like that when I'm reading books. So I'm a big D&D fan. I got all my D&D books on my iPad digitally. And so when I'm scrolling through those and reading through those, I like to hold my iPad like a book. Well, this is much more comfortable to hold in hand when you're using portrait mode. And what's crazy is that Apple's discovered that a lot of people don't use their iPad in portrait mode anymore. They even moved the camera to the landscape position because so many people are using their iPad in landscape form all the time, especially when they dock it to a keyboard. But if you want a good book-like experience, you want to hold your iPad in portrait mode and you want it to be comfortable and light and easy to use. All right, so the next positive I want to mention about this 11-inch model is gaming. So I really did not like mobile gaming on the 13-inch. It was just too darn big and too difficult to hold. Even though you could move some control buttons, like I said, if you hold the thing for a long time, 30 minutes or more, your hands and wrists start to hurt. And this 11-inch model is much better for mobile gaming. So I can play Call of Duty, and it's just big enough to where I can reach all the controls very easily, and still much better than my phone because all the buttons aren't covering up the screen real estate. You can actually see what's going on this iPad. So gaming is a phenomenal experience on the 11-inch, can't be beat, and is much better than the 13 for sure. And that's where I kind of exhaust my list for the good things on this 11-inch size. Okay, with all that being said, let's talk about the benefits to the 13-inch model. So hands down, the 13-inch model is better for productivity tasks of all kinds. So obviously you can connect the 11-inch model to a secondary display, and I do that a lot, and I thought that would be the workaround for the smaller screen. But I use my iPad so darn much, and I'm not always at my desk. Sometimes I'm at the coffee shop, sometimes I'm at the office, sometimes I'm on the couch doing work, and I don't want to be connected to a secondary display. Well, when you go down to that 11-inch size, you're really on a small screen for productivity. This is especially true for video editing, so it's been pretty tough to adjust to this 11-inch size when it comes to Final Cut Pro for iPad, because there just isn't enough screen real estate. And Apple built in some features to move things around and shift the size of things, but that gets old really quick. On the 13-inch model, I never had to do anything like that. Everything just fit well on the screen. And I thought that a secondary display would also solve Final Cut Pro issues. It doesn't. For some reason, Apple has not made it to where Final Cut Pro adjusts to the resolution of Apple Studio Display or any secondary display. It still looks big and bulky like on the 11-inch screen. You can't change it, so that's super annoying. Another thing I do with my iPad is I remote desktop into my Mac Mini. So my iPad is also my MacBook. Literally, I just pull up the Mac operating system on my iPad through Jump Desktop. And I've got a video about that. It's super cool. I love doing this. It wraps everything into one package. And while it's workable on the 11-inch, man, the 13-inch was so much better for this. You really got more of a MacBook-like feel when you were using that 13-inch and then using remote desktop. It was pretty awesome. It's a little bit cramped on this 11-inch for sure. And that's a big deal when I'm out and about. If I'm at Panera or at the coffee shop and I want to do some work on my Mac, it's really tiny. All right, the second benefit that I want to mention to the 13-inch iPad Pro is the keyboard size. So you get a larger full-size keyboard. Feels much more like a MacBook than the cramped version of the 11-inch. So the 11-inch Magic Keyboard is really good quality. It's backlit, but the keys are obviously smaller, and they sacrifice in areas like the tab key, keys that you kind of use quite often. The trackpad is also smaller, still good enough, but just a little bit cramped. That 13-inch was perfect. It felt like a computer. And other than that, that's pretty much it for the 13-inch. So there's your list right there. So really for me, the 11-inch actually has more benefits than the 13-inch, but those 13-inch benefits are pretty strong, especially if you're doing a lot of productivity all the time. It's clear the 13-inch is better when docked in a keyboard and using it as a laptop, so I think that should be considered when you're purchasing your iPad Pro. If you're going to be using this thing in the keyboard all the time and have it docked and you're going to be doing a lot of productivity, that 13-inch is the way to go. But if you're going to hold your iPad in hand and use it as an iPad most of the time, and you're going to read books and watch shows and consume content, and you don't really intend to dock it in the keyboard as much, I'd go with the 11-inch for sure. I don't know. I'm going to keep playing around with it and see how it goes. I do love this iPad very much. Some people on my channel comment and say that they just buy two iPads. So some people will have a 13-inch Pro as their computer and then buy a mini or a smaller iPad. Some people have even commented they buy both iPad Pro models. Man, that is tempting. I'll let you know how this is going. I'll keep you updated. Let me know if you have questions about the M5 iPad Pro. I'm happy to help you out. That's all I got for you. If you like this sort of content, please like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.